So now that we've modeled our 7 puzzle pieces, we're going to go ahead and we're going to add color to each one. Now you're going to do that by selecting the paint bucket tool, and you'll see you have a lot of different options for colors and materials that you can include. So for me, I like to go to the drop down up here so we can really see what each of these descriptions is representing. So we have some colors to represent materials that were 3D printed, asphalt and concrete, bricks, cladding and siding, so on and so forth. Right? For these puzzle pieces, we're just going to choose simple colors for each one. Now you can paint these any colors you want so long as they are different, right? So 7 distinct colors. So for the first one, I'm going to choose this shade of red here, kind of reddish orange. And when I'm in the paint bucket tool, if I click on any particular face, it will color that entire face. But what I want to do is I want to color an entire shape, right? So instead of painting each and every face individually, which is very inefficient, I'm going to use some of the shortcuts that are built within the paint bucket tool. Now there are a lot of shortcuts with the paint bucket tool. We're only going to go over a couple for now, right? We'll get more in depth in later modules. But one of the things I can do to paint this entire shape here is I can pre-select all of the faces, right? So I just triple clicked this block, and then I can select my color, and it will paint the entire object. Now, the way we can do it even a little bit quicker is instead of pre-selecting it, what I can do is I can hold Control before I click. So if I hold Control before I click, what that's going to do is it's going to paint all connected faces of the same material. Right. So here I have a shape with multiple sides, so all of these faces are connected, right? They're adjacent to one another, and they're already the same material. They're already this default color. So if I choose a different material, this color, and I hold Control before I click, it's going to paint them all. If I held Shift, it would not only paint the materials that are the same on one particular object, but it would recolor any face within my drawing space here that's of the same material. So right now I'm holding Shift instead of Control, and when I click, every white piece turns red. But obviously that's not what we want right now, so I'm going to hold Control instead. And I'll do that for each of my pieces here. It's actually a little too dark. There we go. We want to see all of those edges so we can identify that shape. So now that we've applied a color to each of these pieces, we want to go ahead and we want to rotate each individual piece to match the orientation that we see in step 1 of our PDF. Right? And this way we'll be able to assemble that puzzle much more easily. So we're going to do that with the rotate tool. And the rotate tool can be tricky for a lot of people. So I want to try to explain it in such a way that you have success with it right from the beginning. So I'm going to start by rotating this T-shaped piece. And with the rotate tool, you need to have the entire object selected. Rotates right up here. You're going to see a protractor come up. Now, this protractor will be one of 3 colors. It will be blue, red, or green, as long as it's parallel to one of the 3 axes. If it's not parallel to one of the axes, then this protractor will be black. But we want it to be one of these 3 colors for our puzzle pieces. Now, depending on which face you hover over, you're going to find that it matches a different axis. So when we have our protractor as red, we are going to be able to rotate our shape about the red axis. So you need to rotate in a couple of steps. First, we identify the orientation at which we want to rotate. And then what we're going to do is we're going to find a center point of our rotation. So we can click once, and that now locks my protractor in place. Then we can move the mouse and you'll see a handle come out. Right, this handle is tracking along the green axis. So I can pull this handle out and click a second time, and now I can see my object start to rotate, and it's rotating again about the red axis. So if I want to rotate with accuracy, I can type in a number of degrees to rotate it. So to match our PDF, I'm going to have to rotate it in 2 steps. So in this step, I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees so that it's vertical. So I can just type in 90. And then I'll need to rotate it a second time about the blue axis. So I've identified the axis upon which I wanted to rotate. And I've clicked. I've pulled the handle out. I've clicked again. And I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees in this direction. So to get this particular piece to be in the same orientation as it is in my PDF, I had to rotate it twice. So I had to rotate it 90 degrees about the red axis, and then 90 degrees about the blue axis. So I'm going to do the same with the remaining pieces. And as I rotate them, I want to move them in a pretty close to the same place that I see them in step 1, because it just makes it a little bit easier for me to visualize. So this piece is already rotated correctly. I just want to kind of move it to the same spot that I see it on the PDF. And again, to move it, I just pre-select it, click once, click again. Okay, so for this next piece, we're going to want to rotate 180 degrees. For now, we can do that about either the green or the red axis. So I'm going to click to lock my protractor, pull out a handle, and rotate 180 degrees. And now I can see to get it in the same orientation as it is in step 1, I'm going to also have to rotate it about the blue axis, 90 degrees. Again, I'm just going to kind of move it pretty close to how I see it on my PDF. By the time you get all 7 pieces rotated, I hope you feel comfortable with the rotate tool. And if you don't, you can practice some more before you put this puzzle together. Okay, so now I have all of my pieces rotated the same way I see them in step 1, and they're positioned about in the same place as they are in step 1. They don't have to be exact.